The moon was quiet. No sound, no wind. Just dust, rocks, and broken metal scattered across the surface. A small human cargo ship slowly landed near the wreckage. Its landing gears hissed as it touched the ground. Inside the ship, Connor Reed, a rugged human pilot in his late 30s, leaned forward in his chair. He scanned the twisted remains of a crashed alien vessel ahead of him. Doesn't look like much salvage, he muttered. Connor wasn't a soldier, not anymore. He worked alone now, traveling from system to system, picking scrap and selling it for fuel and food. He didn't care about people. Not anymore. But something about this crash was different. As he stepped out of his ship wearing a breathing mask, his boots crunched over shattered glass and burnt wires. The alien ship looked like it had been attacked. Blast marks on the hull, deep cuts made by energy weapons. The door was torn open. Whoever hit it didn't want survivors. Connor walked through the wreck carefully. His flashlight cut through the smoke and darkness. He was just about to turn back when he heard it, a soft whimper. He froze. It came again, faint, like a cry. He turned toward a half-buried escape pod. The door was jammed, sparks flickering from the control panel. Connor hesitated. Then he grunted, pulled a crowbar from his pack, and began forcing the pod open. With a loud creak, the door gave way, and inside, curled up and shaking, was a small alien boy. His skin was a pale lavender color, his arms thin, his body wrapped in a tattered emergency blanket. His big eyes looked up, terrified. Connor stepped back, stunned. The boy tried to speak, his voice weak and trembling. Please help. Connor blinked. You speak English? The boy nodded slowly. My mother. Slavers took her. Please help me. Connor's heart jumped in his chest. Slavers. He hadn't heard that word in years. Not since he shook the thought away. He couldn't get involved. This wasn't his fight. Still, the boy was shivering. Connor knelt beside him, pulling a heat pack from his belt. He pressed it into the boy's hands. Take this, he said quietly. You'll warm up. The boy clutched it tightly. They took her. They killed the others. My mother told me to hide. She locked me in here. Connor sighed. He looked back at the wreck, then at the stars above. No signs of life, no ships nearby. But if slavers had attacked, they might come back. He should leave. Take off now before. Things got messy, but then the boy looked up at him again. Eyes wide, full of tears. Full of hope. Connor felt something stir deep inside, something he had buried a long time ago. My name is Scylla, the boy said softly. Connor exhaled. Connor. He helped the boy out of the pod. The kid was barely standing. Come on, Scylla, let's get you somewhere warm. They walked slowly back to the ship. Inside, Connor wrapped the boy in a thick blanket and gave him water and food paste. Scylla ate quietly, eyes still full of fear. After a few minutes he whispered, Will you help me find her? Connor didn't answer right away. He sat across from the boy, staring at the control panel, at the flickering screen that showed the empty moon surface outside. She could still be alive, Scylla said. I can feel her. Connor looked at the kid, really looked this time. He had once seen the same expression on his little sister's face. The day she was taken, years ago. He had been too late to save her, too weak. And he had never forgiven himself. Maybe this time could be different. Connor stood and grabbed his scanner. Tell me everything you remember, the direction they went, their ship, anything. Scylla's eyes lit up. Yes. Yes, I remember. Their ship was black, with red lights. The engines made a high whine sound, like screaming. I saw the mark ... like claws around a star. Connor's eyes narrowed. He knew that symbol. Veil. R.I. slavers. They were real monsters. They didn't just sell people. They broke them first. Connor scanned the area again. Something beeped faintly. A low signal, hidden deep in the wreck. A transponder, likely slaver tech. They left a signal, Connor muttered. Someone's going to come looking. He turned to Scylla. We don't have much time. Will you save her? Scylla asked. Connor looked him in the eyes. I'll try, he said. But you stay here, safe, understand? Scylla nodded. Connor moved toward the hatch, then paused. He looked back. The boy, weak and scared, had just whispered a few broken words, and somehow made him remember who he used to be, a fighter. A protector. He wouldn't fail again. Connor gripped his weapon and stepped into the shadows of the wreckage. The sun on the dead moon never moved. It just hung low in the sky, casting long shadows across the broken wreck. Connor returned to the site, his boots crunching softly on burnt ground. He held a plasma pistol in one hand, and in the other, a handheld scanner blinking with a soft green pulse. Back on his ship, Scylla was asleep, finally. The boy had curled up with the emergency blanket, clutching a stuffed toy he found in the ship's storage. But even in sleep, his face looked tense, as if his nightmares wouldn't let him go. Connor wasn't sleeping, not until he found out who had taken the boy's mother. His scanner pinned footprints, heavy ones, not alien, not human either. Deep, spread out and clawed. They led away from the wreck toward a sharp ridge of jagged black rock. He followed as he walked. Connor found something chilling, a broken slave collar. The metal ring was scorched and bent, its locking chip still blinking red. Nearby was something worse, a patch of ground, scorched in a perfect circle. Black ash, surrounded by strange burn lines. Slavers had landed here, but more than that. This wasn't just a grab and run. This was organized, clean, silent. Connor crouched, brushing away dust, and there it was. A scorched emblem burned into a fallen slab of metal, a star inside a clawed circle. His jaw tightened. Valari, he whispered. He'd hoped it wasn't true. But now he knew. Valari slavers were feared across the outer colonies. Not because they were loud, but because they were ghosts. They didn't just kidnap, they erased. Whole ships, whole crews, gone without a trace. Only a few survivors had ever spoken of them. Connor had met one once. A woman who had claw marks across her face and dead eyes. She didn't talk much. Only said one thing. They don't just break bones. She'd said, shaking. They break the soul. Connor stood, suddenly alert. His scanner flashed red. Motion detected. He turned. A figure darted behind a broken engine core. Connor raised his pistol. Show yourself, he called out. Nothing. He moved fast, boots light, pistol steady. When he reached the corner, he found a shimmer. Someone had dropped a cloaking device, cheap and half-broken. It still left heat traces. Another figure was nearby. Connor followed the trace and saw it. A Valari drone. Small, spider-like, with a single red eye scanning the wreck. It didn't attack. It didn't even run. It scanned Connor, then vanished. Climbing swiftly up the rocks and disappearing over the ridge. Connor's heart raced. They knew someone had found the boy. He sprinted back toward his ship, knowing he had minutes at best. Inside, Scylla had woken up. He looked scared, clutching his blanket as the door opened. Connor sealed the hatch behind him and locked down the ship. Scylla, he said quickly, they know you're alive. The boy's lip trembled. They're coming? Connor nodded. Not yet, but soon. We need to leave. Scylla looked down. They'll hurt her, if they know. Connor knelt in front of him. Listen to me. I found their mark. I found the way they took. They didn't kill her, Scylla. That means they want her for something, and that means she's still alive. Scylla nodded, but his hands trembled. Connor pulled up his star maps. He opened a deep sector scan and pointed to a red mark blinking near a dense gas cloud. There's a station out here, he said. Not on most charts. Traders call it the market. No laws, no patrols, Just shadows. Scylla looked confused. What is it? Connor hesitated. It's where people get sold. Scylla's eyes widened. She's there? She could be, Connor said. Valari slavers move fast. And if she's high value, they'd want her on auction quickly. The boy looked down. She's smart. And strong. They won't like that, Connor stood. Then we'll make sure they regret taking her. He started prepping the ship, stealth mode, sensor dampeners, weapons online. The jump to the nebula would take 2 hours. In the dark between stars. They'd be alone. But Connor didn't mind that anymore. Scylla sat quietly, then asked, "Why are you helping me?" Connor paused at the controls. He didn't turn around as he answered, "Because I didn't help someone when I should have." A long time ago. Scylla said nothing. Connor launched the ship. The thrusters hummed as the moon shrank behind them. But just before they jumped to light speed, the console beeped. A message. Short, in a harsh alien script. Connor translated it on screen. "Return the boy, or we take the next one." He stared at the screen, then erased the message and pushed the ship into hyperspace. Let them come. He wasn't running anymore. The ship moved through the darkness between stars. No light, no sound, just the hum of engines and the deep silence of space. Connor sat alone in the cockpit, staring at the swirling colors ahead. The nebula looked like a storm made of fire and ice, full of spinning clouds and hidden dangers. Behind him, Scylla sat quietly, holding a small crystal around his neck. It was glowing faintly, a family memory stone, the last gift from his mother. "How long till we get there?" Scylla asked softly. Connor didn't turn around. 2 hours. Maybe less. Scylla nodded and said nothing more. Connor zoomed in on the star map. At the center of the nebula was a dark asteroid marked only with code numbers. No name, no signal, no beacon. Traders called it the market. It wasn't really a place, more like a secret. A place where the law never reached. Connor had only heard rumors. Creatures sold like cattle. Rich buyers bidding for lives. Weapons traded for bodies. He had never wanted to go there, but now he had no choice. He checked the scanner again. No ships behind them. Yet back in the passenger area, Scylla spoke again. "My mother. Her name is Kira." Connor looked over his shoulder. "She taught me how to build things," the boy said. "Even small engines. She told me if I ever got lost, I should find someone brave. Someone with a kind heart." Connor felt something in his chest tighten. "She told me stories about humans," Scylla added. "She said most aliens fear your kind. But she didn't. She said humans were dangerous, but only when it mattered." Connor turned away again. Silent. As the ship approached the edge of the nebula, the lights flickered. Static hissed across the console. Connor's eyes narrowed. "That's new," he muttered. "Something's jamming the signal." He reached under the panel and flipped open a hidden compartment. Inside was a small black box, an old pirate chip he'd kept for years. With quick hands, he inserted the chip into the system. A new map loaded, one only smugglers and outlaws used. A red path appeared. It led directly through the nebula into the heart of darkness. Connor activated stealth mode. The ship's hull darkened. Lights shut off. Engines went silent, switching to pulse-glide. Scylla stared out the window. Everything outside turned deep blue and blood red. Strange lights moved in the fog like eyes watching from the dark. Suddenly, the boy gasped. "There!" he shouted. "That's their ship!" Connor snapped his head toward the scanner. A dark shape moved through the mist, long, sharp, and covered in glowing red lines. "It's the same sound," Scylla whispered. "The engine. It whines." Connor gripped the controls. "It's them. They're heading toward the market." He followed at a distance, keeping his ship cloaked. After 15 long minutes, the Valari ship disappeared behind the asteroid. Connor slowed down and brought his ship to a stop on the far side. From here, he could see it. The market. It looked like a black scar carved into the rock. No lights on the outside. No welcome signs. But in the shadows, dozens of ships floated. Pirate ships, luxury cruisers, bounty hunter vessels. All quiet. All deadly. Connor activated the external camera. The Valari slaver ship was docking at a lower bay. A cage door opened. And for a brief moment, they saw her. A woman, thin, tall. Her skin the same soft lavender as Silen's. Her arms were chained, her face bruised, but her eyes were alive. She looked up, as if sensing someone watching. Silen reached toward the screen. "Mom," Connor zoomed in. It was her. She was still alive. Silen turned to him, eyes wide. "What do we do?" Connor didn't blink. "We get in, quietly." He opened a hidden locker and pulled out 2 uniforms stolen long ago from a mercenary crew. They were black, armored, and marked with fake badges. One of them had a breathing mask built in. "I'll go in as a buyer," he said. "You stay hidden. You guide me from the ship. If things go wrong, you run." "No," Silen said firmly. "I'm not leaving her again." Connor stared at the kid. Then gave a small nod. "All right, but you follow my lead, no matter what." Silen nodded. Connor guided the ship toward the market's upper dock. It was less guarded, for private buyers. He used a fake ID code. After a long pause, the dock door opened. "No welcome. Just silence." As they stepped out, Silen whispered, "Do you think she know me?" Connor looked at him. "She never forgot you, kid. I can feel it." They disappeared into the shadows of the market, where lives were bought and sold, and hope was a rare thing. The air inside the market was thick, not with smoke or dust, but with silence. The kind that pressed against your chest and made breathing feel heavy. The lights were dim and green, flickering as if afraid to fully shine. Every corridor smelled of oil, sweat, and something worse. Something like fear. Connor kept his head low. He walked with slow steps, his fake ID badge glowing red on his black mercenary armor. His mask covered his face, hiding his human features. Beside him, Silen moved silently, tucked inside an empty equipment crate on a hover sled. Only Connor could hear the boy whisper through a tiny communicator in his ear. "Left, there's a guard station." Connor adjusted course. The hallway curved like a snake's belly. On the walls, screens showed auctions in progress, aliens in chains. Some tall and proud, others broken and crying. Creatures from 10 systems stood behind energy bars, while silent bidders raised digital cards. "This place is worse than I imagined," Connor muttered under his breath. "They call it honor," Silen whispered back, his voice tight. "But it's not, it's pain." A door opened with a soft hiss. Connor entered a massive hall. The ceiling stretched high above, lined with floating platforms. Rich buyers, draped in silk or armor, floated above the cages like gods watching insects. Some wore masks. Some didn't even look. They only stared at the numbers on their bidding screens. Connor's eyes moved fast. He was looking for one thing. "Cage 41. Down 1 level," Silen said in his ear. "Bottom floor, left corner, I saw her there." Connor kept moving. He passed cages filled with beings from every corner of the galaxy. Some looked at him with dull eyes. Others snarled, knowing. He wore a slaver's uniform. He ignored them. He wasn't here for them. Not yet. He reached a narrow staircase and went down. The bottom floor was worse, darker, colder, and quieter. Here, the high-value captives were kept. Their cages were lined with energy fields instead of bars. No sounds came out. No screams. No begging, only silence. Then he saw her, cage 41.keir. She sat with her back against the wall, hands chained, eyes closed. But when Connor stepped closer, her eyes opened sharply, alert, intelligent, fierce. She didn't look broken, not yet. Her eyes narrowed, scanning him. She didn't recognize him. Connor leaned closer and whispered just loud enough for the cage's mic to pick up. "Your son sent me." Kira's eyes widened, just for a second. She stood slowly. Her lips moved. No sound came out, but she mouthed the word. "Alive?" Connor nodded once. She took a shaky breath and pressed, her hands against the field. Connor reached into his sleeve and pulled out a stolen override key. He glanced around. No guards on this floor, but cameras were watching. He had only seconds. He pressed the key to the panel. The field flickered. Her chains snapped open. But before she could step out, a deep voice behind him said, "Nice trick, human." Connor spun around. A massive alien guard stood in the shadows. Thick arms, plated skin, holding a long shock staff. His badge glowed gold, a high-rank enforcer. Connor reached for his blaster. Too slow. The shock hit him in the chest. Pain exploded through his body. He fell to the ground, twitching. Kira screamed silently as energy surged through the floor. The guard kicked the blaster away and bent down. "Thought you could play hero?" he growled. "We'll sell you too. Humans go for a good price these days." Connor gasped, trying to reach for the backup knife in his boot. Then another voice cut through the air. A child's voice, angry, sharp. "Get away from him." The guard turned, too late. Seelan jumped from the crate, holding a tiny imp grenade. He slammed it against the guard's back. The device beeped once, then exploded with a burst of blue light. The guard dropped. Instantly, armor locking up, his body shaking as sparks flew. Connor coughed and sat up, his whole body buzzing. "Kid, I told you to stay." "I did," Seelan said, panting. "Until you needed me." Kira rushed to them. Her legs were weak, but she pulled her son into her arms. She didn't cry. She held him with strength, as if afraid he'd vanish again. "I'm here," she whispered. "I'm here, baby." Connor stood slowly, still hurting. Touching moment later, "We have to move." Alarms began to flash. Red lights painted the walls. "They know," Seelan said. Connor grabbed a blaster and tossed it to Kira. She caught it like she'd done it before. "I used to be a soldier," she said calmly. "Figures," Connor muttered. "Let's go." As they ran up the stairs, the whole floor shook. More guards would come, more weapons. And worse, the buyers wouldn't want to lose their property. But Connor didn't care. He hadn't come to watch. He'd come to break chains. And the market was about to learn that humans, when they cared, were more dangerous than any monster. The sirens screamed through the halls like dying machines. Red lights flashed in every corner. The market, once a silent place of chains and profit, had turned into chaos. Connor ran with Kira and Seelan beside him, blaster in hand, boots pounding against steel floors. Behind them, voices shouted in alien tongues, weapons charging. The air was thick with tension, the kind that comes before a fight, or before death. "This way," Kira said, her voice calm but urgent. "There's a back passage. I saw guards use it during transfers." Connor glanced at her. "You sure?" "I spent days here counting every step and every face," she said. "I'm sure." They reached a sealed security door. Connor tried the panel, locked. Kira didn't wait. She stepped forward and fired 3 shots into the control unit. The door sparked, hissed, and opened. Behind it was a narrow tunnel lined with pipes, wires, and thick smoke. The escape path wasn't clean, but it was real. As they moved through the tunnel, Seelan asked, "Are they going to follow us?" Connor didn't lie. "Yes, they'll follow hard." Seelan looked up. "Then we make them regret it." Before Connor could speak, his cum crackled. A voice came through, cold, sharp, and full of hate. "You think you've won, human? You stole what was ours. The price must be paid." Connor didn't reply. The voice continued, "We have others. Hundreds. Trade for the woman and boy, or we'll burn them all." Kira froze. "They have children," she whispered. Others like Cylin. Connor's jaw tightened. They're bluffing. No, she said. Velari don't bluff. They break things. The hallway ahead shook. An explosion. Connor pulled Kira and Cylin behind a crate, just as fire burst down the corridor. From the smoke, armored guards appeared, massive figures in dark suits with red visors and stun blades. Back! Connor! Shouted. He opened fire, covering the others. Kira joined him, her movements sharp, trained, a soldier's memory kicking in. Her aim was precise. 2 guards dropped fast, the others paused. Unsure. Connor took that chance. Run! They turned into another hall, this one full of auction gear, floating platforms, bidding screens, discarded masks and robes. Buyers had fled when the sirens went off. But not all of them. As they passed through, a tall alien in golden robes stepped forward. A rich bidder, his skin glassy and his hands webbed. He raised a glowing baton. Stop, he hissed. Return my merchandise. Kira raised her blaster, but Connor held up a hand. He stepped forward, eyes cold. She's not merchandise. She was bought, the alien said. By me. Do you know the price I paid? Connor's voice dropped. Then here's your refund. And he punched the alien square in the face. The buyer collapsed with a squeal. Cylin blinked. That was awesome. Connor gave a quick smile. Come on, almost there. They reached the docking bay just as the alarms grew louder. Connor's ship sat ready, doors open, engines humming low. He'd set it to auto prep before he left, just in case. But as they rushed forward, something massive landed between them and the ship. A beast, not a guard, not a buyer, but a slaver lord. Taller than anyone in the market, wearing thick armor, with tentacles wrapped around his arms like whips. His face was hidden behind a mask of bone. His voice rumbled like thunder. No one leaves the market without paying the price. Connor fired. The shot bounced off the creature's armor. Kira fired too. Same result. The slaver grabbed a metal crate and hurled it across the bay. It smashed into the wall, sparks flying. Connor turned to Cylin. Kid, remember that trick with the bomb? Cylin reached into his pouch, pulled out a small device. An EMP spike. Connor pointed. Stick it in his back. Don't miss. The boy nodded, eyes fierce. Connor and Kira moved to the sides, firing to distract the slaver. The beast roared. Swinging a chain blade that nearly hit Connor, Cylin moved, fast, silent, small. He slid behind crates, then ducked under the slaver's leg. As the beast turned, Cylin jumped and stabbed the spike into a gap in the back armor. BZZZT. The slaver screamed, a sound like metal tearing in half. He dropped to his knees, armor sparking. Connor grabbed Cylin and ran. Kira followed. They reached the ship, sealed the door. Inside, Connor shouted, Hold tight. The ship rose, thrusters burning the docking bay. Guards fired after them, but too late. They blasted out of the asteroid and into open space. Behind them, the market burned. Fires spreading from the explosions they'd left behind. Inside the ship, Kira held Cylin close. She didn't cry, but her hand wouldn't let go of his. Connor fell into his chair, blood on his sleeve, body aching, but alive. Cylin looked at him, eyes wide. You didn't leave us. Connor looked forward, voice low. No, I never will. But even as the stars returned outside the windows, he knew it wasn't over. Somewhere, the Velari were already hunting. The stars outside the ship stretched like silver threads, but inside, the air was thick with silence. They had escaped the market. Barely. Connor leaned against the cold metal wall near the cockpit, holding a cloth against a deep cut on his arm. Blood soaked through, but he didn't move. He was still breathing, but they weren't safe. Kira sat with Cylin in her arms. She hadn't let go since they left. Her bruised face leaned against his, and she whispered softly in her language, words only a mother could know. Her hands, once shackled, now trembled not from fear, but from love. Connor watched them for a moment. Then he checked the scanner again. Nothing. That made him more nervous. He stepped into the cockpit and tapped the console. A red light blinked. Not a signal, a warning. They tagged us, he muttered. There's a tracker somewhere on the hull. Kira stepped in behind him. Can we remove it? Connor shook his head. Not in hyperspace. But once we exit, they'll know exactly where we are. Kira looked calm, too calm. Then we give them a surprise. Connor raised an eyebrow. You got something in mind? She gave a small nod. We don't run. We turn around. Hit them before they expect. U.S. He looked at her, really looked. I thought you were just a civilian, he said. I was, she replied. Before the slavers. Before the war on Zeller. Before I lost my home, my husband, and almost lost my son. Connor nodded slowly. You know how to fight. She nodded back, and I'm not done. Sillin appeared behind them. Neither am. Connor gave a small smile. Kid, you're trouble, you know that? Sillin grinned. So are you. Connor pulled up the star map and pointed to a system just outside the nebula. There's an abandoned mining rig here, he said. Mostly rocks, no life. We exit hyperspace there, pull off the tracker, and when they come, we make our stand. Kira's eyes met his. Together, he nodded. Together. The ship dropped out of hyperspace with a jolt. Asteroids floated lazily across the black. Dust clouds swirled, thick enough to block radar. Connor suited up and climbed outside the ship. He moved carefully along the hull, checking every panel. Then he saw it, a small metallic spike, pulsing red, tucked beneath the thruster wing. Gotcha, he whispered. He yanked it free and dropped it into a containment box, then re-entered the ship. Tracker off, he said. They'll be here in minutes. Kira had already armed herself. She wore one of Connor's spare vests and carried a plasma rifle. She looked more like a soldier now than anyone he had ever met. Sillin sat at the backup turret station. I've studied your manuals, he said. I can shoot. Connor didn't argue. They didn't have time. Lights flickered. A long beep echoed through the ship. They're here, Kira said. Outside, space twisted, a massive Velari warship emerged from the mist. Black metal, red lights, shaped like a claw reaching for prey. Connor flipped every system to battle ready. We can't outrun them, he said. But we don't have to. He opened the comms. This is the human vessel. Rusthawk, you followed us, you hunted us. You tried to break us. He paused. You failed. He cut the signal. The Velari ship charged a weapon, a red beam collecting energy. Connor dove the ship down into the asteroid field. Rocks shattered around them. Turbulence rocked the ship. Sillin fired from the turret, striking the lead scout. Ship that followed. It exploded in a burst of orange light. Yes, he shouted. Connor smiled, just a little. They'll board us soon, Kira said. Connor nodded. Then we give them a welcome. They turned off the engines, made the ship drift between two asteroids. Cloaked in shadows, when the enemy docking clamps locked on, everyone was ready. The Velari boarding team entered fast, armored, growling, sure of victory. They were wrong. Connor hit the lights, blinding flash. Kira opened fire, clean. Fast shots. Two enemies dropped instantly. Sillin pressed a side control. The floor shocked the third intruder. Connor took the last one hand to hand, slamming him into the wall and disarming his blade. In less than a minute, it was over. 4 enemies gone. Kira stood over one, breathing heavy. We can't stay, she said. Connor agreed. I've got one last trick. He sprinted to the engineering bay and activated a hidden program, Ghost Jump. It was illegal, unstable, and brilliant. What does it do? Sillin asked. Jumps us through the star's gravity field. No ship can follow that quickly, not even them. The engine WHINED.KEI grabbed Silent's hand. Connor shouted, "Brace!" The ship screamed. Into the jump dot everything went white. Minutes later, they reappeared near a quiet moon. No signals. No pursuers. Silence. Peace. Connor exhaled. He collapsed into the pilot's seat. Kira sat across from him. Her voice was quiet. "Why did you do all this?" Connor stared at the stars. "Because once I didn't save someone, I failed her. But this time, I didn't want to fail again." Scylla walked forward and held Connor's hand. "You didn't fail. You saved us." Connor nodded, but his voice cracked. "No, we saved each other." The moon was small, quiet, and covered in golden mist. No cities, no scanners, no voices, just soft hills and gentle wind. Connor's ship, Rusthawk, rested on a rocky slope. Its hull still smoking from the battle and wild, jumped through the gravity. Field. Inside. Everything was silent, but it wasn't the same kind of silence as before. The silence was peace. Kira sat near the ship's window, watching the stars. Her arms were wrapped gently around Scylla, who slept against her side. For the first time since she was taken, her body wasn't trembling. For the first time since her capture, she allowed herself to feel safe. Connor stood in the engine bay, tools in hand, fixing a damaged cable. His shirt was torn and a deep cut ran down his shoulder, but he didn't stop working, not because the ship needed it, because it gave him something to do, something to feel useful. Kira walked in quietly. Behind him. "You never told me," she said. "Told you what?" He replied without turning. She walked closer, slowly. "Who she was, the person you didn't save." Connor paused. He placed the wrench down, sighed, and wiped oil off his hands. "My little sister," he said finally. "Taken during a raid. I was 16. I ran for help, but too late. Never found her again." Kira lowered her head. "I'm sorry." Connor nodded once. "Me too." Silence filled the room for a moment. Then she asked, "Why did you come back for me and Scylla? You could have escaped. Left it behind." Connor looked at her now, really. Looked. His voice was calm. "Because when that boy cried in the wreckage, I heard her voice, my sister's, begging me not to run again." Kira blinked, then stepped forward. "You didn't just save us, Connor. You gave Scylla something we both thought was gone, hope." Connor turned away, suddenly uncomfortable. "Don't make me the hero. I'm just a man with regrets and a fast ship." She smiled softly. "Maybe, but to us, you became more than that." Later, Connor walked outside onto the rocky hilltop. Scylla followed. The boy looked stronger now. He wore a jacket 2 sizes too big and held a datapad he found in the ship. But his eyes, they were brighter than before. "Is this our home now?" Scylla asked. Connor looked at the landscape. "For now. It's hidden, quiet, no slavers. No eyes." Scylla looked down. "What if they come back?" Connor knelt beside him. "Then we fight. But not just us. I know people. Others who've lost someone. We'll call them. Build something. Like a team?" Scylla asked. "Like a family," Connor said. Scylla smiled. "But I thought you worked alone." The boy said. Connor chuckled. "Maybe I was just waiting for the right crew." A soft wind blew through the air. Syl and sat beside him on the rocks. "You know, I think my mother likes you." Connor raised an eyebrow. "Yeah?" "She cooks better than you," Scylla added, trying to sound serious, but then laughing. Connor laughed too, a real, deep laugh he hadn't heard from himself in years. Back inside the ship, Kira opened an old storage chest Connor had long forgotten. Inside were dusty photos, a broken pendant, and a folded scarf. She held it carefully, understanding without words that these were pieces of a man still putting himself back together. She placed a new item beside them, her family memory stone, a symbol not of death, but survival. Later that night, the 3 sat together around a simple table. eating quiet food under the quiet stars. There was no celebration, no loud promises, just small things. Scylla laughing softly at something Connor said. Kira smiling without fear. Connor watching them, not as strangers, but as something more. When it was time to sleep, Connor stepped outside one last time. He looked up at the stars, the same stars that had once held only pain and silence. Now they held something else. He whispered, more to himself than anyone, I didn't save them. They saved me. A soft voice behind him said, then maybe that's what family does. Kira stood in the doorway, arms crossed, the moonlight casting a soft glow around her. Connor smiled. I never thought I'd find one out here, he said. Sometimes, she replied, it finds you. Inside the ship, Scylla had placed 3 names on the navigation screen. Crew. Scylla. Kira. Connor. Not hero, not soldier, not victim. Just names. Just a family. As the ship's lights dimmed for the night and the wind whispered over the rocks. A new journey waited quietly in the stars. This time, they wouldn't run. This time, they would build something stronger. Together.